any of the animals out here. And Kathy in Tennessee, we've spoke about how long she will hide her cubs away while she goes off hunting. And you were wondering, in terms of their learning and their growth, will they learn to hunt by watching their mother, or is it instinctive? And the answer is, it is instinctive. Let's just see where she goes. She's gonna go up the other side of the drainage, I think, before I reposition. Gets a bit tricky here. Kathy, sorry, there she goes. She ducked through. VM, of course, doing a fantastic job of keeping track of her. And there she settled down once again on the opposite side of the drainage line. So Kathy, since she stopped, it gives us an opportunity to answer your question. It is instinctive. They start practicing the skills that they need at a very young age. Occasionally, a female will actually bring back a live animal rather than killing it and allow her cubs to practice their killing technique. It's more common in cheetah than it is in leopard and lion, but it does occasionally happen. Hello, girl. Hidden behind the trees. I love shots like this because it gives us such a wonderful impression of their camouflage. Okay, I'm gonna go forward, move out of people's way. And let Andrew come in, because his guests haven't seen it and seen her. And she's only just managed to get here. Andrew, come forward to where I am if there's a clear view. Never mind, she's up again. Oh boy. Okay guys, we can't follow her through here, I don't think. Let's try. Rusty's done worse things in her time. Let's go and at least investigate. Otherwise, the other vehicles will never stand a chance. I think we can do this. I've just got to try and dodge the stump. I'm going to try. I'll see you on the other side. Oh! That's going to hit Kirsten squarely on the leg, which we don't want to do on her birthday. Rusty, go into reverse, you horrible thing. Thank you. Okay, everybody hold on. And up the other side while we search for her. Over to James for an update. Me and my bright ideas.
An update it is, everybody. Here we found a Dicrostachys in the rear bush, which is not particularly interesting, but for the fact that it has very long spikes. Now when you are following a leopard like Karula off-road, this is what you have to watch out for, because they will stick into your tyres and result in your having to change a tyre en route, and that's not very nice. The other thing I would like to show you, everybody, is how incredibly stoic we are about being out here at the moment. You know, Brian, when your skin is so dry that you can scratch on the word dry. Observe, Brian. Look how dry my skin is. You see how selfless I am.
Look how injured your knuckle is.
I know. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, everybody, that is That is from the fact that we're experiencing a cold front, and the cold front has desiccated the landscape. Now, we're going up towards a torchwood or greenthorn tree. In fact, there are 3 of them in a row. The one that Nat.Geo Smith plummeted from the boughs of is over there, and how I can be compared with that spectacular fall after my little bloops the other day, well, it hurts me deeply to the core of my being. And there are another 2 over here. And Herbie was just telling me that he reckons they've got a fluted stem. So if you come up and look at this one here, its stem is fluted, and that means that it's got these sort of gaps in it. I'll show you now when we get up to it, because it is a defensive mechanism against elephants, and it makes it difficult for them to get at the bark. And I think that's quite interesting. So if you look here, I initially thought that can't be right, that really can't be true, but if you look here, down this fluted part of the stem here, what it means is that the elephants can get at the bark on the outside. That doesn't harm the tree. That's not going to be an issue for the tree. Inside though, and this has almost certainly been taken out by an elephant's tusk. An elephant puts its tusk in here. It cannot get any purchase on the bark unless it breaks the tree in half entirely. And it's not going to be able to do that because, I mean, as powerful as an elephant is, to snap this thing vertically would be almost impossible. And what that means is that there is always going to be a bark layer going from the roots up to the top of the tree. And as long as there's a little bit of bark going to the top of the leaves, the nutrients from the leaves can come down to the roots, and the nutrients from the roots can go up to the leaves, and the tree will survive. And I didn't think that there was any good reason to have a fluted stem until Herbert, on the 3rd of July 2016, told me otherwise. Let's go and look at the other one. I'm sore tempted now to climb it because, of course, Leo Smith fell out of it. Oh, look at this. This, if I'm not beastly mistaken, is a civet. Now, what is it? Herbie, I'm just going to ask Herbert to come and help here because I don't want to tell you nonsense. I don't think this is a civet, actually. I'm not sure what's made this dung. I wonder if it's not an arthropoda. No, it's got scorpion in it. Herb, what made this? Badger. Phew, I got it right just in time. Herbert confirms it is a honey badger that made this, and if you look carefully at it, you can see what he's been eating. He's been eating scorpions. There's a bit of scorpion there. In fact, there's a lot of scorpion here. In fact, it's almost entirely scorpion. The badgers here are devouring scorpions by the dozen. Let's just get a bit more out of there. I don't want to touch it with my hand. It's a carnivore's dung, and a carnivore's dung ain't so lekker, ain't so fly. Let's just see what else is in there. Yeah, it's almost exclusively scorpion exoskeleton, everyone. Now, this is interesting because an invertebrate's exoskeleton is normally made of something called chitin. And chitin, much like keratin, which is what your hair and your nails and rhino horn is made of, is utterly indigestible to just about every single organism out here. And the honey badger is no different. So, the honey badger is unable to eat the chitin, but what happens is that somehow the stomach juices in the honey badger devour the flesh inside. It's a bit like eating a crab. You know, if you eat a crab, there's very little actual flesh on the animal to eat. Well, it's the same with a scorpion, except with us, we can't eat the crab chitin and then sort of deliver it in these very cleverly packaged sausages. We are unable to do that. So around here, the honey badger has dug. And what he's done is he's obviously found an area where there are lots of scorpions. He's much better at finding scorpions than I am. And he's dug holes here and pulled them out. And he's much bigger than that. He wouldn't be in there. That's really very cool indeed. I've seen lots of honey badger excavations around this area, and because the soil is quite sandy, I suspect that the honey badgers frequent this area. Bad luck, right? Frequent this area and dig up the scorpions. Here's another one. It's quite fun. Here we go. Yes, this was definitely dug by a badger. Voracious diggers they are. Probably dig faster than you can dig with a spade, which I think is quite impressive. Right, come and have a look at this enormous Balanites tree here. Now we have seen this tree very often on drive because it is such a spectacular example of the green thorn or Balanites magami. Isn't it lovely? And here you can see the fluted stem again that the elephants are unable to get at. You should be a little careful when climbing these things, of course, just in case there is a snaky sitting up here. There is a bit of a cache up here that has been placed here by squirrels. So squirrels have put nuts here, and this one is out. This is a marula nut. It's not from the Balanites tree. You can see it looks like a little alien head. Don't you think, Brian? And the flesh of the nut is inside there. And it's delicious if you can get it out, but it's almost impossible to get out. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Leo Smith fell from just up here. And I can see why, because it's quite slippy up here, I've got to tell you. Hopefully I won't do the same. Here's a fresh Balanites fruit, and in theory, this fruit has got oil in it. And now I have broken these apart and tried to light them and embarrassed myself any number of times. Right, here we go. Shall we go a bit further, Brian? You think it's a bad idea? You think it's not a good idea? I think I'm going to have to. Whoop. Yeah, whoop, 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 whoop. We're okay so far. There we are. Okay. Yes, indeed. This is if you haven't seen the clip of Brent falling out of this tree, and I don't blame him in the slightest, it's not an easy tree to climb, but he sat up here, and I don't know what he thought he was doing. I think he got quite excited about we were doing a rehearsal, you see, and he started coming down, and he realized that he was now to the place of no return, and he couldn't hold himself because it's quite a slippy tree, and he plummeted all the way down there. That's a very big fall. Anyway, enough of that. He can tell you about it the next time he's here. So this is the Balanites tree, the Balanites magami, or the torchwood, and you can see, I think, possibly the most beautiful tree here at Djuma. I'm now going to try and climb out of it. Brian, do you think I'll manage? I hope so. You know what my daddy always told me, Brian? He said to me, never climb down something frontwards. And that is those words are words I live by. You know, one must always come backwards down something one has climbed. Don't run with scissors, exactly. That's exactly what he used to tell me, Brian. Do not run with scissors. For if you run with scissors, you might fall over and stab yourself. Not so, Brian. Exactly. What a disaster that would be. All right. Let's go across to Jamie and get an update from her.
Somehow I imagine that descent was carried out with great care at this point. James certainly doesn't want to fall out of a tree once again. I'm sure he got stuck in a leadwood sometime many months ago, last year sometime. I know there were some incredible photoshopped images of trees full of Jameses to keep us all entertained. Right, clearly we're not with Karula anymore. She's very much on the move. She's hunting through very dense vegetation, and I just decided that it wasn't worth accidentally damaging her chances of a successful hunt or interfering in some way. So I've left her alone. She's got 3 hungry mouths to feed, herself and 2 little ones, and I really would hate to be responsible for upsetting the balance of things. So we've left her for now. She is moving west. She crossed over Shabam Road, and she's clearly on the search for something else to feed her little ones with. And we'll do a little bit of a scan maybe a bit later, And I think we'll be following up tomorrow on the sunrise safari. So for now, we are going to try a different tack. We're going to head back to that lioness. Hopefully she's still there. It's quite cool this afternoon, as I mentioned earlier. So there is a chance that she's moved away from where she was. But I'm going to go relatively quickly back in that direction. Now, as it starts to get dark, if she does get up and move, I'm not going to follow her into dense vegetation. What I'd like to do, however, is to get an idea as to where she might be hiding those cubs from us. Or not from us, sorry, but from the entire world. Where she might be denning them. And it just gives us a nice idea. First of all, it means that we won't accidentally stumble into them on bushwalk or something similar. And it gives us a nice idea where to keep checking if she does decide to bring them out. That's the plan, I think, for the rest of the sunset safari. It's a difficult choice to have to make, because on the one hand there's that lioness, on the other there's the lioness munching on what's left of the buffalo, and I think she's going to be faced with hyenas soon. It's difficult to decide exactly where it is we're going to go. An impala and her young female offspring running close behind. Beautiful. They're such incredibly graceful antelope. And speaking of grace, I'm being terribly rude about James's tree climbing skills, and I really don't have any right to be, because I've fallen out of more trees than I can possibly count in my time. So he is not alone. And Brent certainly managed it spectacularly at one point as well. I'm going to leave our impala. I do want to get back to that lioness before she moves off. Nobody's been with her, which means that she might not even be there when we get there, which I'm hoping is not the case. And hello to Sandra, and welcome on our sunset safari. You're wondering about our lionesses, who are in a little bit of a state of, I wouldn't call it disrepair, but they're certainly in a rather scattered situation at the moment. So you were saying that, there's a leaf in my lap, you were saying that these females seem to enjoy being on their own. Do they belong to a particular pride? Yes, they absolutely do. They're all part of the same pride, known as the Nkuhuma, or brown ivory pride, and that's named after a tree that occurs on the Sabi Sands. Definitely one of the most beautiful of all of the trees. There's 5 of them at the moment, plus a couple of new members. We actually didn't get around to speaking about how many cubs that young female has. Apparently she has 3 new babies, and there are most definitely reinforcements on the way, and lioness feeding on the buffalo. So Sandra, I don't quite know why they're so scattered. I think it's a combination of the fact that there's a couple of estrus cycles. Amber Eyes clearly has been in estrus. She was mating with a male lion this morning. And then the pregnancies and the cubs that they have had has kind of resulted in James called it an explosion of lionesses. I'm not sure I would go that far, but they are very, very scattered. But there's usually 5 of them, soon to be more. And as I said at the start of the drive, I'm really looking forward to the moment where all 5 Nkuhumas are reunited, plus their little cubs wandering along behind. And it will kind of be a beautiful, not end, but a sort of the end of a chapter of their lives that were thrown into chaos around this time last year. Now, this time last year there were 8 Nkuhumas, and apparently just before that there were 9, but when I started working here there were 8. There were 7 females, well, there were 5 adult females, 2 sub-adult females, and 1 sub-adult male. And with the takeover that occurred, they used to be controlled, if you could use that term. They were the dominant male lions in this area were known as the Matimba males. There were only 2 of them. And they were pushed out by an incursion of 5 males known as the Birmingham Boys. And as always happens with a pride takeover, or a territory takeover is probably a better way of describing it, The cubs, young cubs, were killed. One female from the Nkuhuma pride was killed in relatively mysterious circumstances, but almost certainly by the Birmingham boys, who were young, full of testosterone, and a little bit aggressive, and I think things just went south, either over food or while they were trying to protect their sub-adult cubs. One young sub-adult female, the sister of the youngest member of the Nkuhuma pride, was killed. Junior, the young male, made it out in one piece, and he seems to be absolutely fine. While we make our way, it seems to have been a day full of cats on termite mounds, and it only stands to reason that now we have a large primate on one.
I am so pleased that I have graduated from tree faller to large primate. No one has ever called me large before. Thank you, Jamie. Now, on this termite mound, we have a tree called Oseroa spherocarpa, or the common resin tree. And it's not a particularly attractive tree. It's not particularly spectacular in any way, except for the fact that it has a very interesting medicinal use, as explained to me by Heberto just now. If you should happen to break your leg out here, which I hope that if you do come out here you don't do, but should you happen to break your leg by mistake, what you do is you reset the bone, obviously without anesthetic, and that will hurt a great deal. You might cry, I certainly would. And then you take 2 sticks and you place them either side of the broken bone, and that is your splint. And then in order to aid the healing, you dig this tree out, you break the roots, and you burn them up, and then you crush them into a powder. And then you make very fine incisions around where the bone has broken. And into those fine incisions you rub the ash and the powder. And that apparently will help your broken bone to mend. I personally think that I would die of pain long before I was able to dig out a piece of this root. But if you are perhaps a little braver than I, and you find yourself out here one day with such trouble, just have a look at the leaf quickly, identify it so that it's in your memory banks, and should your leg break when you're out here, you can fix it forthwith. This is Oseroa spherocarpa, the common resin tree. Would you manage to do that on your own, Brian?
Probably not.
Yes, I wouldn't. Right, on we go. A large primate. Did you hear that, Brian? I am a large primate. I am large. And there's the sunset, everybody. And that means we're going to start sort of heading towards quarantine clearings now. And then we'll have another sort of half an hour or so left of our little walk. Our Sunday stroll. Very nice, Brian. It's so pretty. Lovely. Right, on we go. Let's head across to Jamie and find out how close to those lions she is.
The answer is we are very close to the lions that we are making an approach to, or at least the one female. And I don't want to go too fast here because I want to just double check that the mating pair... That's interesting. Relatively unexpected. I think just probably attracted by the presence of that buffalo and coming to settle in the dead trees. Oh, and they apparently don't want to be on camera. They're feeling very camera shy. Well done, Viam. Awesome. Settling down. 2 white-backed vultures. I said that they are roosting in dead trees, and that's because they prefer dead trees without leaves. They're very big, bulky birds, and they're not particularly agile. Oh, sorry. I'm attempting to subtly put on my coat, but I misjudged that ever so slightly. And that's because trees with leaves mean that they get caught up in them, and they only really settle on trees with leaves when they know that there's a prospect of food. So if they're waiting outside of a kill, I didn't do that very well, but I've managed to put my jacket onto the chair as well as myself. There we go. Much warmer. And on the subject of scavengers, George, you've got a wonderful question about whether or not our hyenas ever managed to steal the kill from the lionesses. Not as far as I know, not yet. We went back to check at the start of the sunset safari. Sorry, it is afternoon, the sun is setting. We went back at the sunset safari, and all was well. The pregnant lioness was still feeding. However, she'd been abandoned by the other lioness, and I think that as darkness falls, that kill will become the newly acquired property of the hyena clan of Djuma. I don't think she's going to stick around much longer. And to be completely honest, there's not really all that much left, oh dear, of her kill. Oh, drat. Let's just check she's not on the other side of this drainage line. I mean on the termite mound. Where did you go, girl? Not this way, that's for sure. Now, on the subject of our hyenas, while we go and search for this lioness, or at least her tracks, to give us a bit of a hint as to where she might have gone, let's go over to James, who's found some evidence of hyena presence.
I think it was a hyena, everybody, but it was something similar. If you look down over here along this piece of grass, you see that it is darkened. Now that is there's no subtle way to say this. That is anal pasting. Now many animals out here, hyenas included, have got a gland underneath the anus, and it's used to mark territory, and it produces a fairly evil smelling black gum like this. And what they do is they walk over the top of it. So if you can imagine, once Brian has zoomed out a little bit, if you can imagine an animal walking along like this, in these its legs, it walks over the top of it like that, and then the anal pasting takes place on the end of the branch. I've smelt this one doesn't smell bad. I don't think it's very new, but I also think it was made by a civet. I'm pretty sure that a civet walked along this road at some stage during the last, I don't know, it probably comes along here quite regularly. And that's a territorial anal pasting. Okay, now the sun is beginning to set, so we're going to head sort of back towards the home. But just quickly have a look over here. One can get oneself rather into trouble around here because you keep finding things as the sun's gone down. Many of you have asked about bushfires and do we get them here and are we afraid of them. Here is a piece of tree that has broken, and this tells a long story, and the long story goes as follows. The trees out here are adapted for fire, and you can see here many people say, well, why don't you just burn an area if you think that it's too thick with trees. The trees here don't die when you burn them. You can see this tree, all it did is it coppiced. So it started growing from the base. I bet the whole top ground portion of the tree was killed, and then it just settled up other shoots, and they've quickly grown up into this silver cluster leaf like it is. Now, many people, especially as a function of the drought, are wondering, is there a likelihood of fire coming up? And the answer is no, because if you look around you here, you can see that there's almost no grass at all, and the grass that there is very short, and most of it's been eaten away already. That is what burns in an area like this. These trees, unless you have a massively hot fire, they don't burn. And that massively hot fire, of course, can only be brought on if there's an enormous amount of grass in the fuel load. Without that, there can be no bushfires here. So we're in a pretty fire-free season this year. It may get very hot in August and September. It may get so unspeakably hot that in a normal year it would create a fire. But this year, any fire that comes through here is going to be able to be put out with a couple of stompings. Now, let's just compare this tree here and shoulder. That's a massive bull elephant has rubbed his shoulders up there. Now, I'm not a large man. Brian is a very large man. And Brian, you are what? You're probably almost a stick shorter than this as well. So I'm 5'8". My hand is probably another foot above, 6'8" there, plus another 1.5 foot there. So you can see how absolutely enormous an elephant is. Almost, oh, probably, what's that, about 9 feet, which I think is quite impressive. So quickly over here, this is where the elephant has taken off the bark, and marula bark comes off in small sections, and so it becomes quite difficult for the elephants to strip them, unlike the knobthorn tree. Jamie Patterson, my colleague and great naturalist, has found not one, Brian, not even 2, but 3 lionesses.
There you go. Sorry guys, I was just being quiet there so that you could listen to the sounds of our mating pair. There you go, that typical response of a female that has just finished mating, rolling over onto her back. And there's some thoughts that allows for additional help in fertilization. So we haven't lost our lions at all. We've got the mating pair and we've got the female that we were with earlier. Copy that, thanks very much, Andrew. And I don't think there's any question that this female is amber eye content with those bright orange eyes of hers. Oh, fly. Definitely wasn't welcome. Playing a little bit cutesy after a Sunday spent consorting with her male companion. Of course, we're fortunate enough to be able to witness this. Lion mating goes on for about 5 days, usually about roughly every 20, maybe 15 to 20 minutes during that time period. So by the time the pair separates, they are absolutely exhausted and almost invariably really very hungry. Here's our second lioness. She's over there. She moved out of the way as soon as the mating started, which is a very wise thing to do. A male that is mating with a female or courting a female tends to be incredibly protective and possessive of her, even when it comes to other females. So our new mom, well, I'm relatively certain our new mom, has moved off and away to a slightly safer spot. Awesome! What an incredible Sunday afternoon this has been. And there's the male. That's Blondie, isn't it? Looks like it's Blondie, the oldest of the Birmingham boys. And now he's really acquired that full head of mane. Definitely not nearly as flawless as they were when they first arrived, bearing the scars of many fights. Oh, she's going to mate again. He's interested. I think she just wants to go say hello to her other pride mate. Interesting. That's very interesting. Let's see if she phlegm and grimaces. Yes. How fascinating is that? So those hormones still playing a very interesting role. Look how interested Amber Eyes is in sniffing the other female and giving us a perfect grimace. The lips curled upwards. She's not snarling. Oh, now she is. Amber Eyes was not snarling or showing aggression there. She's showing interest in the smells that are coming from the other female. Obviously the hormone levels still high in the lactating female, and that's what attracted Amber Eyes' interest. You've got an interesting clash of hormones there. The pregnancy or the post-pregnancy hormones and lactation hormones, and then the Amber Eyes' estrus hormones. And one male in the middle of it all. Gave his territory a quick mark. And now he's going to try and find a spot to settle down. I'm going to take up the best possible spot and block everybody's view, and then present you with the view of the back of my head. The only truly social big cat. One of the most extraordinary aspects of nature. And a really nice opportunity, even though the view isn't all that clear, to just see the comparison in size between the head of a female and the head of a male. Although he's got to pick up his head to help us out with that. I can also hear in the distance a Varro's eagle owl calling away. It's one of my favorite calls. It's a very deep toot, 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 toot. We might go and look for them later, depending on what happens with these lions. Okay, right, how are we going to reposition for this now? He's thrown a spanner in the works. Okay, there we go. We have an answer, sorry, on a slightly different subject of different lions. We have a different answer for George, who asked about whether or not the hyenas have stolen the carcass. Yes, they have. Or the lioness has left and abandoned it to them, but the hyenas have all joined in at that carcass, and they're all there now. As to where she's gone, she's probably on her way back here. Keep an eye on the Djuma Dam camera at the same time, because she could well come through there. She's either going to go there, or she's going to go to Gallagher Pan to go and have a drink. She might go to Arathusa and have a drink at Red Dam. It's all a little bit of a toss-up at the moment. But she'll go wherever that second lioness went. I'm not sure how long Amber Eyes has been mating with this male. I don't think they've yet reached the end yet of her estrus cycle, just judging by their behavior. She's still showing enthusiasm, I suppose, if we could call it that. She's rolling over onto her back. By the time a lioness reaches the end of her estrus cycle, both partners are, I suppose I'd describe it as a little bit world-weary, essentially. Now, Rob, good afternoon to you. You wanted to know how long an estrus cycle lasts for a female. Roughly around 5 days, up to 7. There's usually at least a day's courting period where she's not in full estrus, but the male lion knows that she's coming into estrus, and he'll spend a lot of time accompanying her, often resting his chin on the back of her, the lower part of her back, just making sure that he has staked his claim for when she is in estrus. And then after that they will start mating. And as I said, once every 15 or so minutes for 5 days. You do the maths. I think I've done it before. It equates to somewhere close to 500 mating sessions during one estrus cycle. It's an interesting thing about lions. It's called induced ovulation. Okay, let's try. Trying to think. I think we might be able to get around there. Find ourselves a slightly nicer spot. How's that for you, Vian? A little bit better. You can at least see their faces, although they've done what lions do best, which is go straight back to sleep. And we just have to wait a little while longer, and then she'll probably get up to mate with him once again. I definitely have a soft spot for the Nkuhuma pride. I think it's just because we've watched all of the the drama that has surrounded the territorial takeover, and we've watched the way in which they have survived. Look at that. Is that a scar? It does look like one. A healed up injury. It's amazing how resilient these creatures are. Cuts that would lay us low with infection and pain barely seem to register with them, and they heal up almost straight away. Our lions aren't going to be up to too much for now. Let's head over to James before he has to head home in the darkness.
And home from the darkness we must be before the darkness falls, otherwise we could fall prey to something out here. Look over here, everybody. Many of you would have seen buffalo, well, of course you've seen buffalo, but you would have seen buffalo with that red kind of tinge to the top of their horns. You also may well have seen some impala hitting trees during the course of the rut. And this is what they're hitting. It's an acacia tree, and acacia trees were used to tan leather. And you can see why they were used to tan leather, because there's a very, very kind of, deep red, tan-coloured substance inside. I've forgotten what it's called. Tannin. There we go. It's called tannin inside the bark, and it's used to tan leather, which I think is quite amazing. Right, the lions are still mobile. We're going to go down towards that area there, and I'll say goodbye to you on quarantine, but go and have a look at the mobile lions.
That was really fascinating. Oh, big yawn. Look at this. Watch Amber Eyes' behavior. Oh, it's not Amber Eyes' behavior. It's the pregnant female. She just mounted Amber Eyes. It just goes to show what havoc their hormones are playing between the two of them. No, it was Amber Eyes that mounted the new mother, the lactating female. I think she needs a name at this point because I'm confusing myself. Oh, and we've got some phlegm and grimacing. Ah, come on, boy, do it one more time for us. Thank you. Hope you're getting some awesome screenshots of that fearsome expression. And you might get lucky, he's going to do it again for you. One more time. Yes. How cool is that? To the vomeral nasal organ, more easily known as the organ of Jacobson, and that essentially allows him to an extra level of refinement in terms of tasting smells almost. So he went and sniffed where the females urinated and then phlegm and grimaced in response. But what was most fascinating, because it's the first time I've seen that in this kind of situation, I've never seen an estrus female and a new mother in the same sighting with a male present. And it's very interesting what that sort of behavior that they just demonstrated. Absolutely fascinating. In fact, I've heard of it happening, but that might even have been the first time I've ever seen a female mount another female with lionesses. Really, really interesting. Hello, Amber Eyes. Things are all a bit confusing at the moment. And yes, absolutely, Paula, you're thinking along the same line I am, and that is that Amber Eyes was mating with one of the Birmingham boys not too long ago. It was probably about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. It was around Buffelshoek Dam. Sure, Paula, it sort of blurs a little bit into one, trying to remember exactly when they all mated. But you're right. There was a sighting with James, and there was Amber Eyes was mating with one of the males. Okay, now that they've decided to settle, they're playing camera shy once again behind the log. We'll reposition a little bit so that we can pop some light on, shed some light, quite literally, on the situation, and also get a view of the male. This is such an interesting sighting because, okay, that might be as good as it gets, I think, because the female and the left of your screens, the sleeping one, she wants to, I think she wanted a little bit of company, as lions instinctively do as social cats, but I also think now she'd actually quite like to move away from the mating pair. And Amber Eyes showing every intention of following her. And then, of course, the male is not going to be letting Amber Eyes out of his sight for now. We've got an interesting little dynamic playing out in front of us. So what is that? We've accounted for 4 out of the 5 Nkuhuma lionesses in the last 24 hours. 2 on the buffalo kill, and 2 here, not more than about 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers away, a mile away. There's our male playing hide and seek behind the log. Sorry guys, just need to let Andrew know he can come and join us. Standing by, Andrew. It's just myself, space for 2, so you're more than welcome to come and join me. Copy. She's so restless, as estrus females often are. And they're also all looking a little bit hungry. Here we go, she's going to mate again. Oh, or is she? He's certainly hopeful. Oh no, I'm sorry, buddy. Your affections have been surpassed. Interesting. I mean, this is pure hormonal confusion that's happening here. What he must think of the whole situation, I don't think he can be terribly impressed with life. Go away, go away, go away, go away, go away, go away. Oh, whoopsie. They are mating, and we are in exactly the wrong place. I didn't expect that to happen. Sorry everybody, that was so unexpected, it happened so quickly, and it went on behind the trees, and we didn't get to view it. How fascinating though is this behavior. I don't really know where to go, because I think she's going to come straight back to the other female. He's doing some foot scraping after mating. How amazing was that? She ran away from him and then immediately mated, but only after mounting the female first. Definitely some confusion here. Well, since they're going to settle down for now, we're going to stay here in the middle of the 2. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to follow the female that's walking away. We'll come back to these 2. While we do that, James would like to say farewell to you all.
Goodbye. That would be very rude of me twice in a row. Now, I'm standing on this mound, finding myself deeply amusing, overlooking a very pretty sight of the subtle colours of a winter's sunset. Thank you very much for coming along for the ride today. There's just a bird calling here. You hear it? And I don't know what it is. There it is. Sorry, hold on one sec everybody. Those lions start doing something, we'll go straight back to them. Everyone, that is really odd. I think they're flycatchers. 3 or 4 flycatchers. That's what they are, dusky flycatchers. In that tree over there. Anyway, I think it's too dark for you to see them. Oh, you got them. Brilliant. Alright everybody, apparently the lions are mobile, so that's our time up. Thank you very much for coming on our walk with us. Big thank you to Herbert. Thank you Herbert. And a big thank you to Brian. Well done. Good job. Alright, we'll see you tomorrow at 06:30. Until then, enjoy the lions with Jamie.
We find ourselves in a very interesting position here. Amber Eyes wants to follow the female that's walking away, and he doesn't want to let her. And as a result, they're both right next to the vehicle, and it gives us a nice opportunity to observe that Amber Eyes is taller than him. Just a funny little thing that I've just noticed. Can you two not play hide and seek around my vehicle? Behave yourself. This is totally bizarre. Is she hiding there? Yes, she is. She's trying to sneak around using my car, and he won't let her. This is actually the most bizarre position I have ever been in with lions. Okay. Cool. We've lost our other female for now, but there's no way that I can turn on the vehicle just right now because our lions are playing hide and seek around the vehicle. I never thought I'd be embroiled in this really complicated love triangle, but such is life, and nature is never simple. The other lioness is disappearing off into the distance, and Amber Eyes has decided that we are the best possible place to hide. Guys, how cool is this? How privileged are we? I'm keeping my voice down because, as you may be able to tell, they're on top of us, almost quite literally. Now, it's important to remember that as relaxed as our animals are in the Sabi Sands, a mating pair of lions is a slightly unpredictable entity, as we've just seen. Zach and many others, why was she mating with another female? It's hormonal. It often happens. There's lots of cases of homosexual activity in animals. She's confused by her hormones, and she's confused by the hormones of the other female. She's in estrus, so her hormones are telling her to mate. The other female has just had a brand new set of cubs in the last, so she's lactating, so her hormone levels are running high, and as a result we have slight confusion. But none of us, I think, are more confused than our poor Birmingham boy. Who is definitely not impressed with life. This has got to be one of the coolest mating lion sightings I have ever had. It's utterly fascinating. And it goes to show how comfortable these animals are with our presence. The fact that Amber Eyes tried to use us as a way of ditching him, that's a first for me. She tried one side, then she tried the other side, then she looked at Kirsty in confusion as if to say, help me. Come on, where's the girl code here? And unfortunately he didn't let her. How's this? These are wild lions. For those of you who are new to our live safaris. Utterly incredible. Oh goodness, if we thought it could get any more complicated, I think things are definitely interesting enough. There we go, she's trying again. Oh, she is so unimpressed with him. This is incredible. She definitely tried to sneak away. Oh, shame. She's making distress noises. The sounds are absolutely phenomenal. Wow, such an interesting play of instincts here. She's a social cat. She wants to join her pride member. He's a male. He wants her to stay with him and mate with him. She doesn't quite know where she stands because her instincts tell her to mate. Her body tells her to mate, but at the same time she wants company that isn't in the form of a large, somewhat pushy male. Really, really fascinating stuff. I mean, it's interesting that the male is not confused by the other female's hormones. He in no way thinks that the other female is an estrus, even though her pregnancy hormones often cause a little bit of confusion with male lions. Now, Casey, you were wondering if he tried to mate with her, would that, if he was trying to mate with the other female, would that cause a conflict between the two females? And no, not really. There's even cases of female leopards mating with the same male leopard, and I mean now you're talking two non-social cats sharing the same male. That does happen where female lions go into estrus at the same time. Usually with a coalition like this, they actually separate and they mate in separate places. But he clearly isn't confused, and even if he were, I don't think it would cause major conflict. I'm going to just take the spotlight off them for now. I want to see where that female went. I think she's long since abandoned us. She's given this up as far too complicated and far too confusing for her liking. And off she goes. And he looks thoroughly smug with himself. He's managed to keep her exactly where he wants her. Wow, what an absolutely phenomenal sighting. I've had a hyena try to hide under my car before. That's the first time I've ever had a lioness. No, it's the second time actually. One of them tried to do it last night when hiding from the elephants. And it just goes to show how they view us as safari vehicles. We're such a natural part of their environment, or we've become such a natural part of their environment. We're not actually a natural part of their environment. That they are content to use us in the same way they might use a termite mound or a tree. And of course, there's lots of recorded cases of animals like cheetah using vehicles in the Serengeti as a viewpoint. That's something I don't think we ever want to get to that stage, and I certainly wouldn't have been terribly impressed if one of them had landed on my bonnet. Oh, is bonnet an American? Is that a South Africanism?
Yeah,
the front of the car. It's a hood. A hood. Thank you, VM. There we go. Sorry, everybody. It is a South Africanism. A hood. I can't. No, that sounds very strange when I say it. I'm just going to do that. Most of you are familiar with the mating process of lions. And all big cats. It's not a pleasant experience for either party. The male has a barbed penis that hurts the female and the male. Look at his eye. He's got a fresh cut under his eye, and I bet you that was her responding in kind, which is why there's a great deal of growling coming from the mating pair, All of the sounds you were hearing were the male. He was making those high-pitched whining sounds. Ginny, you were wondering as she ran away whether the male would ever hurt the female if she refused to mate with him. Yes, possibly. It's usually the younger and the more inexperienced males that do something like that. When a female refuses them, they get cross, the aggression just takes over, and they occasionally even end up killing them. But that's very unusual. Affirmative, of course you may. The second Mufuzzy is moved north along the cut line. Hello. Such an interesting scenario playing out. I don't want to know what the score of the sports is. Thank you very much. I could do without that in my ear. Sorry, Roger, in Tampa, you were wondering, just talking about animals or lions in distress, whether they have an alarm call that would alert the rest of the pride if they were in trouble. The answer is not per se, not an alarm call as we know it, but the deep rumbling distress growls like the ones that we heard when the lions were chased away by the hyenas or chased off their kill by the hyenas a couple of weeks ago. That, if there's a lion, especially a male lion, close enough to enter into the scene, then they will go and see if they can't help out in that situation, and the rest of the pride will respond as well. But they have to be close enough to hear it, and in that case I don't think that they were. So Roger, yes, to an extent, but it's not really like the distress call of an elephant, for example, that all of the other elephants will rush forward and respond to. I have seen a situation many years ago. I was down at one of our other camps. It was not here, it was where I used to work. Oh, let's get some nice side lighting from Andrew there. How's that? If I take these off. Oh, he's got to keep his spotlight there though. But yes, I had a situation many years ago where we were driving up from a second camp, and this male lion, I got out of the car in the dark to pick something that had fallen out of the car, to pick up something. Okay, I better provide a bit of extra light. And he came shooting past me, probably about 5 meters away. I can tell you I got something of a fright, but he was clearly focused on something else. And when we got up to the second camp where I was traveling to, apparently the lionesses had come sprinting through, followed by hyenas. And the next thing, the riverbed in front of the camp just erupted in growls and hyena screeches. Because obviously the male had come to the rescue of the females. It's one of the big reasons why they tolerate the big males around. They might not be gentle or caring, but they are fierce protectors of the females if they need to. Oops, sorry. Now, Fox Hat, you were wondering about. I've got to stop saying that. That's becoming a pattern. It's becoming like Brent So and some of Scott's expressions. I do have to stop it, I know. Kirsty's nodding behind me. I'm going to stop saying you were wondering. Now we're going to think of other things to say. Fox Hat has been particularly observant and would like to know, oh, you see, that's too similar as well. Why are the backs of the lion's ears black? And the answer is because they play a very, very important part in visual communication. So I'm not sure if you have cats at home, but you'll know, or dogs, or horses, or whatever it happens to be, you know how important an animal's ears are in communicating its mood. These animals can't speak to each other in sort of vocal languages, but they certainly speak to each other through visual cues. So the black highlights some of the most important parts. So the tail is tipped in black, and the ears have black behind them. There's now very interesting research that has been conducted to suggest that the black at the tip of the ears is essential because the lionesses use their ears, all the lions, use the ears as a way of communicating during a hunt. So telling the other lions what their intention is, where to go, whether to stay, whether to move, go left, go right, go east, go west, go downwind. Isn't that phenomenal? We've always wondered about the level of coordination that these animals have, because anybody who's ever seen a lion hunt cannot possibly believe that it's purely by accident, that everybody just knows where they're meant to be. It is a highly coordinated affair. And that is why lions have black behind their ears. I like that idea. I don't think it's the case, but I really like the idea that Eleanor has put forward, that perhaps she was attempting to put her scent on the other female so as to confuse the male and buy herself some space. No, Alan, I don't think so, but that's a really, really good theory. It's a very clever thought and one that hadn't occurred to me. The reason I don't think that is the case is because I don't think lions have that level of problem-solving ability, to be 100% honest with you. It's the sort of puzzle, that's the sort of thing I'd even be surprised if certain primates would accomplish. Human beings, of course, would be more than capable of thinking that way. But I'm not sure a lioness thoughts extend to that degree. That was a ridiculous squeak he gave at the end there. Sorry, I just had to be quiet because the matings of the big cats are always such incredibly vocal affairs. A wonderful, wonderful message from Pippa Mullman, who is watching all the way from Munich and has said what a thrill it is to watch from across the world what is happening in her backyard, essentially. And Pippa, I couldn't agree with you more. It must be a most wonderful experience, and I'm so glad that you are watching us this afternoon because it has been extraordinary. If you want to know exactly where we are, we're on Gowrie Cut Line, probably about halfway between the Central Road Junction and Buffelshoek Cut Line. So there you go. Pippa Mullman, of course, is the landowner of Djuma, along with her husband Yuri. Oh, so a sleepy lion. You're exhausted now, as it's been a very long day. And what an extraordinary afternoon it has been. The lions using the vehicle, the Queen of Djuma. Now, of course, we've got the discussion about his barbed penis and the fact that she actually needs that stimulation in order to ovulate. One of those interesting aspects of lion reproductive evolution. Robin would like to know why she isn't growling when he pulls out and away from her. She is a little bit. She's creating the low rumbling sounds that we're hearing. He's making the more high-pitched whining sounds. And I think it's just because they have been mating for a little while, so it's almost like she's got used to it. It tends to be more violent with leopards. Leopards are more violent than lions during their mating process. I think that's one of the big reasons why she's no longer being as vocal, or indeed turning around and swatting him, as lionesses do right at the start of their estrus cycle. She's just kind of getting used to the idea. I'm relatively certain, though, that she is responsible for the cut that is underneath his right eye. Fresh cut. still painful for her. Still not a pleasant experience. One of those strange little idiosyncrasies of biology. And basically the idea is she's got to mate with him for a long time before it'll result in fertilization, just in case somebody bigger and better comes along. So it's kind of like an extended courtship period. It's also painful for him, by the way, on withdrawal. The barbs on his penis get caught, so it's not comfortable for him either. But it really is a truly bizarre system that nature has come up with. They look relatively content though. Heidi, while our lion looks relatively happy with himself, we saw how when they were mating, the lioness almost immediately rolled over onto her back, and you were wanting to know if there's a purpose behind that. It's sort of an extension of what's known as the lordosis reflex. So a lordosis reflex is what tells the female to assume the mating position and then dictates her behavior afterwards. And you'll find, particularly sort of at the beginning and the middle of their estrous cycle, she rolls over. There is some thought that it's basically a physical way that she's attempting to ensure fertilization. So quite simply trying to make gravity work for her rather than standing up or rolling onto her stomach, essentially to keep the sperm inside for as long as possible. That's a theory. It's the only real explanation that has been offered for that behavior. Oh, look at them now. If we hadn't seen their earlier behavior, they just look so at peace with each other. Isn't that stunning? Wow. I bet some of you are getting some amazing screenshots. But it's why I always have a chuckle when I see those sweet Valentine's Day cards of a picture of a female lion and a male lion looking cute like that together. And there's always the cynical part of me that knows exactly what goes on behind the scenes in the lion mating world. However, the day didn't quite go according to plan. I was hoping we might go and follow that lioness with the fresh suckle marks. But tomorrow is another day, and we can follow up and see if we can't figure out where she went on the sunrise tomorrow. Cheers, Andrew. Bye, guys. And hello to Sabrina, who is 12 years old and one of our regular viewers. It's great to have you on board. You want to know if it's true that lionesses feed their cubs milk for longer than leopards do, and if so, why? It is true. It's not that much longer, Sabrina. It can be just a month or two, maybe up to 3 months longer than the leopard feeds their cubs for. But the reason is because lions are social cats, so whilst the leopard is solitary, she's got to feed herself. She can't quite meet the demands for milk in the same way, but still have to hunt and feed her cubs. So it's just easier from a solitary lifestyle to have them weaned as soon as possible. Lions, on the other hand, social predators, social cats. She's got a pride that will share food with her, and she's also got the possibility of other pride members suckling her cubs as well. So she doesn't bear quite the same brunt of resources on her body. Well, that's why they have a slightly long lactation period. But Sabrina, give some thought to what I've just said, And then think about spotted hyenas and the fact that they can lactate for up to a year and a half, feed their babies milk for a year and a half, and see if you can think of why that might be. I think it's because of the clan hierarchy, because it differs between high-ranking individuals, and of course only the high-ranking individuals can bring meat back to the den site. The low-ranking females have to take their cubs there. But the low-ranking females don't get as much access to food, so they can't produce milk for as long. But it's still much, much longer than the lions or the leopards. It's up to you to think about why you think that may be. I think it's because of the testosterone and the fact that the females are so big, but there's no set answer. It's just a nice, interesting comparison. This microphone is attempting to dig its way through my forehead and into my brain. Hold on one moment, I just need to reposition it. Sorry for the noise. I agree with Jeffrey in Texas. I think that is a brilliant description and I will never be able to unsee it. Jeffrey in Texas has described has described watching leopard mating like watching a kung fu action film. I know exactly what he means, those sort of side swipes and chops and kicks that they throw at each other. The female leopard turns around and swipes at the male, aiming for his belly with her back legs. I don't know how many of you have domestic cats at home that occasionally get tempted to fight you. Not fight you, but play fight with you, and they bite you, and then my cat at home, what she'd do is she'd grab my hand, and then she'd kick very rapidly with her back legs, with her claws extended. Not pleasant for me, but that's exactly what the female leopard does to the male when he dismounts. My hand's getting quite warm. Here we have a lovely moth. A lovely unidentified moth. I have absolutely no idea what it may be. Those of you who are moth experts, who have helped me out with IDing moths before, perhaps you know what particular moth this is. Terribly pretty though, and him doing an amazing job of showing us its wings. How cool is that? No, don't come to the light, don't come to the light. That's not the moon, I promise. Oh. I am camouflaged. You can't see me anymore. A flopped moth. That was really cool. Oh, I thought I saw movement from the lions, but it was my total imagination. They're doing their best flopped moth impression. It's interesting that she keeps trying to get away from him. I think she really wanted a little bit of company that is not with a big mane around its head and one intention on its mind. But either way, we have witnessed some absolutely incredible behavior this evening on our sunset safari. Watching a female not attempt to mate with, but definitely mount and go through the motions of mating with another female is really interesting. It just goes to show that it's not just the males, because often we watch the male impala go through that false rut when the females give birth. And it goes to show that it's not just the males of a species that are affected by those post-pregnancy hormones and those lactation hormones that guide their behavior. What was fascinating was his lack of interest in her, and maybe it's just because he is overwhelmed by the presence of a genuine estrus, and that moth actually went down my top somewhere. There's some flapping happening. I don't know entirely where it went. No, I know exactly where it went. I shall attempt to rescue it in a moment. We're going to look back at the lions. Oh, big yawn. She's going to get up again. Come on, guys. One more time before the end of the sunset safari. Yep. Thank you very much. Right. Oh, she didn't even roll over that time. She's up, she's done. So the low growling was her. The high-pitched whining sounds that I must say are the most exaggerated I have ever heard of from any lion, those were from the male. A truly awe-inspiring sound, mister. Big yawn from her. And off our... no, not off our lions go. They've just found themselves another spot to lie in. Unfortunately, it's straight in front of our porcupine quill themed antenna, so we'll just reposition ever so slightly for the last few moments. Here we go. Well, as we come to the end of our sunset safari, we'll have to follow up on that female at a later stage. We just had too many things to choose from this afternoon. I would have loved to have taken you to the hyenas feeding off the carcass, but we just couldn't get there. We just kept getting distracted by all of the animals. I think that Kirsty had an amazing birthday drive. I think the animals came out to play for Kirsty's birthday. Kirsty, is that the closest you've had a lion?
Yeah.
That was definitely the closest that Kirsty has ever had a wild lion next to her. I'm thrilled that we could give her this fantastic birthday experience and that we could take you all along for the ride as well. Been a beautiful day. The weather is slowly improving after the windy, chilly, freezing cold days we've been experiencing, which is also guaranteed to up our mood. Thank you, Viam, for your fantastic camera work. Thank you to Lou and Chelsea in Final Control. Most importantly, thank you to all of you for joining us and for your questions and comments. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.